We'll begin as usual with one of the questions that comes from our global family, those who aren't blessed to be here with us on the banks of Ganga in this sacred garden, but who are joining us through these beautiful means of technology on so many different channels. And they send in their questions in advance, or क्योंकि वो इतनी भाग्यशाली नहीं है कि गंगा जी की तट पे बैठ रहे हैं, हम उन्हीं की क्वेश्चन से शुरू करते हैं. So we start with one of those, and then any questions that anyone here has, I'll be happy to take. पहले ये फिर आपके पास आते हैं. Why do we take rebirth? And how many lives do we have to live until the cycle is finished? In the same way that in school, right, we start in nursery. In India, they have this LKG and UKG. In America, we just have kindergarten. But we start young. And then every year we come back. Then we're in first grade, then second grade. And we learn more and more each year until ultimately we pass out. And if we are going along in one of our grades and jo seekhna hai, hum nahi seekhte hain. If we miss learning something we needed to learn, the teacher will hold us back. Not because she's mean or hates us or is against us, but because ultimately the teacher's highest goal is that we should learn what's needed in each class. So if you don't learn to read properly, or you don't learn to count properly, or you don't learn your math properly, you end up redoing second grade, third grade, fifth grade, jo bhi hai. Not because you're bad, not because you're being punished, but actually for your own best interest, so you can learn it. So in life, it's a very interesting cycle. जब हम संसारा के बारे में बात करते हैं या लीला के बारे में बात करते हैं, it's this whole idea of that which was never separate from God, is still one with God, has never been two, has never been separate, but forgot that it was one, thought it was separate, and now essentially has to go to school for a lot of years to remember that it is one. We are one with God. We've never been anything but one with God. But because of the way Maya works, because of this whole Leela and wheel of Samsara, we forget that. And in our ignorance, we accrue karmic debts. We do action, karma, and that karma has reactions. Sometimes sweet, sometimes bitter. But the moment we get a karmic fruit, we have to come back to eat it. In our bank accounts, if we've got 100 rupees we deposit, and 100 rupees we withdraw, bank account is 0. You're done. But in life, unfortunately, it's not like that. Sometimes people think, well, I did something that's getting me negative karma. I did something ignorant, something wrong. Galti ki maine. Jante hue, na jante hue. Galti ki. Then they say, well, if I do something good, can it cancel it all out and mera kam ho gaya? Unfortunately, the karmic bank account doesn't work like that. We actually have to keep coming back. Some of the lifetimes will be enjoying sweet fruit. Some will be not really enjoying, but dealing with bitter fruit, sour fruit. Maybe in one lifetime we have different fruit. But we actually have to keep coming back to eat it. It's like kabhi kabhi guard mein hai na, maa kehte hai ki jab tak plate khali nahi tum utoge nahi. Right? So many of us hear that in our homes. Finish your dinner, then you can get up. So it's kind of like that. Like we've had this plate of food laid before us. And until it's over, we're not done. Then, of course, Bhagwan Krishna explains to us through Arjuna. Because Arjuna, of course, asks, then what's the answer? If everything I do, good things, bad things, if everything accrues this karmic fruit, and I have to keep coming back to eat it, then what's the answer? And there's actually two answers. So the first answer is what Bhagwan Krishna gave in the Gita, which is, whatever you do, surrender it to me. Whatever you do, surrender it to me, everything. There's this beautiful mantra we're given. Yat karoshi yadashnasi, yaj chahoshi dadasiyat, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you're acting, whatever you're eating, even all of your sadhana, your yagnas, your tapasya, just offer it to me. Don't think about any of it as you are the doer. Because what most of us tend to do, jab galti hoti hai, we say, well, though, I couldn't help it. Not my fault. Stars were misaligned. I was not paying attention. But when we do something good, we're doing seva, we're serving, we're helping, we're doing tapasya, we feel very proud of that. I've done this. 2 घंटे ध्यान किया मैंने आज. Right? इतनी जप माला की, इतनी अभिषेक, हर मंदिर में जाती हूँ अभिषेक करने के लिए. We feel very much like we are the doers. And what Bhagwan Krishna's taught us is, whatever you do, offer it to me, surrender it to me. It's the only way to break this cycle of karma and rebirth. But along with that, there's something else as well. Usko karte hue, surrender karte hue, laying everything at God's feet, karte hue. We also have this beautiful opportunity to realize that here on earth, ये जो मोक्ष जिसके बारे में हम बात करते हैं, सभी मोक्ष चाहिए कि मोक्ष कब मिलेगा? When do I get to stop coming back finally? लोगों को लगता है कि मरने के बाद फिर मोक्ष मिलेगा. And it's something we look forward to. जल्दी जल्दी मर जाऊं ताकि मोक्ष मिलेगा. But what Pujya Swamiji always emphasizes is, if we're not free in our lives, don't think you're going to be free after dying. Sharir ko chhodna does not automatically bring you moksha, because the body is not the problem. Nobody is stuck in the wheel of samsara because of their elbows. Right? It's not when I become finally free of my elbow, then I will have moksha. free of my bones, free of my toes, free of my liver and kidneys, फिर मोक्ष मिलेगा. Your liver and kidney and unglis, these are not the problem. The mind is the problem. And so as we are offering everything to God, ultimately to free ourselves, we also realize that here in this body, in this incarnation, agar man se mukt ho sakte hain, then jeete moksha milega. Then we have what we call jiva mukti. That it's not after you leave the body, it's in the body liberation, in the body freedom. Because we're free of the nonsense of the mind. So rather than worrying about how many lifetimes you have to do this, if you can get free of your mind, then these lifetimes become a pleasure. Then they're a joy. Then we're smelling flowers, watching the beautiful Ganga river flow, enjoying the sound of the birds. Then there's no bandhan. Then every day is moksha. And if you're not free of your mind, then it doesn't matter how many lifetimes you keep doing. The mind travels with the soul. Man, buddhi, ahankar. Atma ke saath jate hain. It's the subtle body. So as we move from lifetime to lifetime, the impressions of the mind stay with us. So don't think he just let me finish another few lifetimes and I'll be done. Jab tak apne man ko, man se mukti nahi milega. You can keep taking lifetimes, keep getting new bones, new kidneys, new livers, new fingers, new toes, new elbows, but you'll still be stuck. So this is why spiritually we work. In our meditation, in our prayer, in our satsang, in our seva, to be free of the mind so that life becomes freedom. Jite hue moksha. And then we're able to really enjoy this beautiful creation. Yes.
Related to this, I wanted to ask a question around, you're talking about freeing the mind. We get so attached to our family, our friends, our work. How do you then free yourself from these attachments?
Attachments. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. The attachments keep everybody stuck. However, जब हम attachments के बारे में बात करते हैं, अपने मन में we think कि attachment की solution क्या है? एक शब्द में मुझे बताओ, what is the opposite of attachment? What are we looking for? Detachment, right? Sanskrit में हम कहते हैं vairagya, right? And it is translated in English as detachment. However, the cut kya hai? You and I both know we have the great blessing of knowing many enlightened masters. We've both been in the presence of many enlightened masters. Ab mujhe ye batao. Are they detached? Are they disconnected? Are they aloof? Are they indifferent? Not even a little bit. The enlightened masters in whose presence I've been so blessed to be, Pujya Swamiji and others, they are actually the most compassionate, the most caring, the most ready to serve, केदारनाथ की जब फ्लड्स आए, मुझे याद है रोज गंगा जी की आरती में महाराज जी की आंखों में आंसू आए, उन लोगों के बारे में सोचते सोचते। हम आरती कर रहे हैं, they were trapped up in the mountains until people got brought out. रोज आंखों में आंसू आए. And then immediately, all of the energy, all of the time went immediately in setting up relief camps, bus station में, train station में. पूरी आश्रम को खोल दिया, सबको बुलाया. Anybody who needed a place to stay. This is what our gurus do. If you've ever been blessed to be in the presence of a master, a real guru, you know, this is what they do. I've seen Pujya Swamiji give his clothes literally to people, give his shawl to people, give his food to people. These are not the acts of someone who is disconnected from others or life. So then we start thinking, though, what is the solution? जब हम attached हो जाते हैं, we are stuck. Our mind is always stuck, families, this, expectations. I realized several years later, actually Bhagavad Katha ko sunte hue from Pujya Vaishri, he was speaking about bhakti. And he was speaking about Gyan and Vairagya as the offspring of bhakti. And I started thinking, because bhakti is devotion, but it's not dry devotion. Bhakti is juicy devotion. Right? We cry in bhakti, we serve in bhakti, our hearts just melt in bhakti. You think, how could juicy love give birth to dry detachment? Right? Vairagya was not adopted. How is it that juicy devotion gives birth to dry detachment? It can't happen. And that's when I realized that actually detachment, I don't think is the right English translation of Vairagya. It's not actually what we're looking for. If you realize that in order to get the son, you have to go through the mother, it means कि पहले भक्ति होना चाहिए अपनी लाइफ में, तब भी वैराग्य हो सकते हैं. बिना माँ, you cannot have the offspring. So without bhakti, the mother, we cannot have vairagya, the offspring. So we have to begin with devotion. And then what happens is vairagya happens automatically. I think vairagya should actually be translated as reattachment, not detachment. We reattach ourselves to the divine through bhakti. We are in such juicy love with God that automatically that attachment to choti si cheez, wo kya keh rahe hain, ye kya kar rahe hain, mere se kaise baat kiya, wo kya samajhte apne aap ko, usko kya hoga, ye, all of these choti si cheez, automatically that attachment dissipates because we've reattached to the divine. And so we become free of the stuff that kills us. Because if you really look at it, the love and attachment itself is not the full problem. The real problem is the expectation that comes with the attachment. So I'm attached to you. I love you. Wonderful. My heart is full of love. But because I'm attached to you, I expect कि आप मेरे से ठीक से बात करेंगे, मेरे को रिस्पेक्ट करेंगे, जो मैं चाहती हूँ वही करोगे. And when you don't, then I am miserable. So my expectation from you in that attachment, that's what kills me. And this is where we learn from the saints. When they love and care, it's not with expectation. It's with connection, but not expectation. It's not after we've saved these people, given them medical care, given them a roof, given them this. It's not how are they going to live. It's not how are they going to treat us. It's not are they going to love us and appreciate us. And it's not that. Be in an expectation. So in the relationships, the question becomes, we are connected, we should be connected, but we are connected in a way that begins with bhakti. First, we are connected to God. Automatically, the little attachments, annoyances, frustrations, they disappear. Automatically. And then we are able to love each other, to be connected, to even be attached in the way like, I don't want anything bad to happen to you, but not attached with an expectation that you're going to live, choose, speak, be the way I want you to. Because we no longer need that. Our connection to bhakti has made us so full that we no longer need this person acting the way I want them to, that person doing what I want, this person being nice to me, this one appreciating me. Because we're immersed in bhakti. And so the whole detachment or reattachment process has to begin with bhakti. Only then we get the real vairagya. And when it comes, then it's like we're connected, we love, we serve, but we don't need something from them. And so there isn't that expectation, an attachment to getting my way. Then it's just love. And then it's beautiful. Spirituality is not about become disconnected, stop loving. It's just stop relying on other people's karmic dramas for your own peace and happiness. Because that's what happens in relationships. You're in a good mood, I'm happy. You're not in a good mood with me, I'm miserable. You're nice to me, I'm peaceful. You're not nice to me, I'm not peaceful. Even if it has nothing to do with me. You had a stressful day at work, you come home in a bad mood. But then what do? Oh my God, I was so peaceful for आप आ गया. इतना सुंदर दिवस फिर तुम आ गए मेरे सामने. अच्छा रहता ना आए guard. Because our peace and our happiness is so halka that every random person's mood has the ability to steal it. When we're really rooted in bhakti, then our mood is rooted in bhakti. Not in everybody else's individual daily drama of their own karmic cycle and ego stories and whatnot. And so it makes us free, even while living and being connected and loving. Thank you. Beautiful. Last, Abka, Fred last ले लेते.
Thank you, Mother, for the opportunity. I am coming all the way from Kolkata. And when I see you, it reminds me of Mira Alfasa, who of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, whom we know as the mother, and who was the spiritual assistant of Sri Aurobindo, we know. Now, when you were talking about consciousness, now I would like to hear from you anything on supramental consciousness. Supramental consciousness.
So first of all, thank you for the beautiful remembrance of the mother. One of the very, very first sevas I was given here at Parmarth Niketan, going back, God, it was probably 1997, 98. I came in 1996, right in the beginning, was actually to do a compilation on the teachings of the mother of the Aurobindo ashram. There was a beautiful, beautiful scholar, very old man, scholar of the mother who, and this was in the days before the internet. Computers existed, but he was like 85, so he was obviously not a computer user. And he had gone through all of the teachings of the mother and had compiled alphabetically an encyclopedia of her teachings from A to Z. But the way that he had done it was he had written them by hand. So a little bit from this book, thoda sa yahan se, thoda sa wahan se, haath se unhone copy kiya, likh diya. Then he had given his handwritten pages to some 1,000 rupee a month, 1,500 rupee a month typist. Jisko English nahi aata. वो बेचारा लड़का ने type किया होगा, but not with any kind of experience or expertise. Third, the scholar brought this huge 800, 900 page book to Pujya Swamiji. Because at that point, Pujya Swamiji was working on the Encyclopedia of Hinduism. So the scholar brought it and said, Aap isko please publish kar lijiyega. Now, Pujya Swamiji did not have time at that point, obviously, to read a 900 page manuscript. And suddenly here was this young PhD student, native English speaker. So he hands it to me. And he says, you read this. And if you think it is good, we will publish it. I had never even heard of Aurobindo. I didn't know anything about Hinduism, anything about Sanatan Dharma, anything about this incredible culture. This was my very first introduction to Sri Aurobindo. And I started going through it. And what I discovered was the teachings were amazing. मतलब मैंने कभी अपने जीवन में कभी ऐसे सुने भी नहीं था that there was someone who gave such incredible teachings. But जो लड़का जिन्होंने type किया होगा, वो बेचारा English नहीं आता था. So itni mistakes he had made, like every line had spelling mistakes, grammatical mistakes. So I started correcting it by hand. Then I had to learn the design program. I went in, I was personally changing everything. But beech mein itna seva aane lage. There was so much other seva to do. We started so many other seva programs. Pujya Swamiji was running so many already that he kept giving me other seva. And this scholar from Lucknow, I think Lucknow, he would come periodically every 2-3 months and he would say to me, Mataji, my book. Now he was like 85, I was 27, but he's calling me Mataji, Mataji, my book. And I was feeling so badly, but I had all this other seva to do. So I went to Pujya Swamiji and I said, I'm very worried कि ये आदमी ऐसा ना हो कि आदमी उनकी पुस्तक publish होने से पहले मर जाए. मैंने कहा, I will feel very badly. So I said कि या मैं दूसरी सेवा नहीं करूँगी, केवल यही करूँगी. तो मैंने कहा, या आप जो भी कहेंगे मैं वही करूँगी, but you have to give me a promise कि कुछ भी हो जाए, जब तक ये पुस्तक publish ना हो, ये आदमी नहीं मरेंगे. Manika, I will take responsibility for the pustak. You take responsibility to make sure that this man is alive and healthy on the day we launch it. So he said, Tum chinta mat karo. Seva karte raho. So a couple of years later, finally in a beautiful ceremony, we were able to launch it. He was alive and healthy. But I share the story because the mother is one of my very, very deepest inspirations. The very, very first I learned about all of this culture. Now, when we speak about this supramental consciousness, I'm not going to go into the philosophy of it. I would recommend that you all read about it. It's beautiful. It's just we don't have time to dive into the depth of these philosophies. The main point is, supramental means above the mind. Most of us are only as conscious as our mind is. We are stuck in our mind. So I am conscious that I'm sitting here. I'm conscious that it's hot out, but I have a nice little bit of a breeze coming this way. I'm conscious that you're in front of me. But that's consciousness based on the mind and my sensory input. When we speak about supramental consciousness, it's that consciousness that is beyond the mind. Because who we are is beyond the mind. And the point of our spiritual practice is to become conscious of the soul, the spirit, consciousness itself, divinity, whatever word we use for it. But to actually have our consciousness expand beyond just what my mind can think, because the problem is the mind only works in separation. I can read what's on this paper because it is separate from me. I can even describe this paper. It's kind of rectangular, it's white, it's got black writing on it, A4 size, because it's separate from me. I can describe you, I can describe the trees, it's separate from me. But the mind cannot know the self, because the self is not separate from the self. And so every time we try to use the mind to experience the self, we hit this brick wall. The mind cannot experience the self because it's not separate, it's one. We are all one. And this beyond mental consciousness is the way to experience the truth of who we are. It's why we meditate. It's why we pray. It's why we do seva. It's why we do all of our spiritual practices. It's why we read philosophy, come to satsang, because even though our minds are reading and listening, ultimately it's directing us to a place inside us that's beyond the mind. It's the finger pointing to the self within. And so this is a place that we all need to go, whatever we call it. Because only through achieving that level of consciousness can we actually experience who we are. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to those of us joining online from wherever you may be in the world. And look so forward to being together with you all tomorrow. And so, so much love.